to Ruggs, who's got plenty of daylight. First play of the game.
Deep throw, wide open. CD Lamb, a touchdown.
Able to beat a man in space down the sideline. Jerry Jeudy, what an effort.
The first wave of free agency has come and gone, but still a couple of positions of need for the Broncos with the draft now a little more than a month away. Phil Milani here, joining Aric DiLalla remotely. Aric, how are things going on your side?
They're good, Phil. It's good to hear from you.
Where's your Jim Nantz sweater?
I know I decided to be a little bit bold, try to go with something different. I don't like it. I'm a little bit chilly.
Yeah, exactly. See, I went back to the Jim Nantz, but I lost the beard, so I cleaned it up a little bit.
It'll grow back.
Well, Aric, the first wave of free agency has come and gone. Let's focus on the draft here for a second. Where do you think the Broncos might be looking as they sit at number 15 in the first round?
Yeah, Phil, first they're in a really good position because they got through a lot of needs in free agency, which is what we know John Elway likes to do. Picked up a cornerback, a defensive lineman, an offensive lineman, went after a talented running back. And so with 5 picks in the top 100, the Broncos should be able to do quite a bit. But Phil, I would expect at that number 15 spot for maybe a cornerback, another one, even though they already picked up A.J. Boye, but probably more likely a wide receiver or linebacker there at number 15.
Wide receiver, we know that this class is super deep. Who are a couple of guys that we should keep an eye on here?
Yeah, I think Broncos fans are clamoring for Henry Ruggs, this speedy guy out of Alabama. It seems like that's the home run pick right now, and I tend to agree. His 4.27 40-yard dash at the combine raised his stock a bunch and makes me a little concerned that maybe he won't be there at 15. But he's kind of the perfect complement to Courtland Sutton's. Sutton has a big body, huge frame, is able to go up and make those contested catches. But somebody who can take the top off the defense, make it so that the safety can't pay attention to Courtland Sutton. That seems like a really nice fit. And then, of course, Ruggs' teammate Jerry Jeudy from Alabama and CD Lamb from Oklahoma are also options. But I think Ruggs is probably the most likely to still be there at 15 and to fit with the Broncos.
Yeah, we'll see if maybe the Broncos fall in love with one of these guys. If they have to, they'll move up to get them just because, like you mentioned there, Aric, they got a lot of draft capital that they can potentially be some moves made on the first night of the NFL draft. Aric, you also mentioned linebacker there. Who do you think could be available for the Broncos?
Yeah, Isaiah Simmons from Clemson is kind of the dream, right? He's a guy that can do it all. He could play slot corner for you. He could play safety if he needed to. He can play inside linebacker. He can play edge. But I don't think he's going to be even close to where the Broncos are picking. They might have to go up to the top 5 to get that guy, Phil. So I think that's a little too much to give. So if I were the Broncos and I were targeting an inside linebacker, Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma and Patrick Queen from LSU are 2 guys who are really good in coverage. And what we see now, Phil, is a lot of these linebackers coming out, they tend to be coverage specialists, which is what the Broncos are looking for. So maybe the Broncos can trade back a few spots from 15. That might be a little high for one of those guys, but maybe you drop back to 20 like last year, pick up a really good player and an extra second or third round pick.
Yeah, a lot of these linebackers come straight out of college, already learned how to defend the spread offense well. So a lot of these guys can play that hybrid safety linebacker position. I agree with you there, Aric. I don't think Simmons is going to be available. One other position group, you mentioned maybe a defensive back. How do you see that fitting in with the Broncos in the secondary there?
Yeah, obviously Okudah is kind of the big name, but he's definitely going to be gone. He could go as high as 3, we think, to the Detroit Lions. So the second best option, I think, is C.J. Henderson from Florida. Again, not sure if that's your biggest need right now, especially after picking up A.J. Boye in free agency, but we might have to wait and see, Phil, what happens here in the second wave. If the Broncos add another cornerback, a veteran guy, then maybe you're less inclined to take C.J. Henderson there at number 15. If I were betting right now, Phil, I think wide receiver is probably the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you add a guy like Ruggs, that offense could be really dangerous next season. You got speed, you got size, you got Noah Fant, of course, and then you mentioned the Melvin Gordon addition. So that could be the reported addition. So that could be a lethal offense if the Broncos decide to go that route. Now that the first wave of free agency is coming on, Aric, thank you so much for your insight.
Hey, anytime, Phil. I've got nothing else to do.
That's going to do it for us. For Aric DiLalla, I'm Phil Milani.